Hi, I'm Megan Pavlich, and today I'm going to be taking you through this wonderful class that we call music theory. I wish there was a slightly more creative title for it, but that's really what it is. It is how music works, and it might sound a little dry, but the value of this class is being able to understand how the music works, because then once you understand how it works, you will be able to understand why composers chose certain things in their music, why this key was chosen, why this rhythm was used here at this very specific spot, that if you didn't understand anything about music, you would just think, oh, that fits perfectly there, but I don't know why. When we go through this class, we'll talk about everything in music, but for the basis of this class, this is just going to be the very basics. It's going to include notes, how to identify them, key signatures, intervals, scales, triads, seventh chords, chord progressions, the beginnings of composition and following the various rules that we have to do there. So you might be asking yourself as you sit there staring at me talking to you, why do we need, like, all of this sounds super boring. And like I said, it can be boring sounding, but the value of this is you will be able to do anything in music once you understand these basics. You'll be able to read any piece of music, even if you can't play it half the notes right. You will be able to read the music. You'll be able to understand what all the markings mean. You'll be able to sit down and play anything. This will let you learn any instrument, whether that be piano, a brass instrument, a wind instrument, percussion. Percussion not having pitches, unless you're playing mallets. Percussion is more of a rhythm thing, but rhythm is absolutely part of theory as well, so it will help you there. If you want to be a composer, it will help you there. It will give you the basics that you will use every single day of your composing career. Whether you want to go into the music industry, you still need to have a basis of music theory knowledge, because that will help you discern with your clients what is good, what is bad, what is trending, what is not trending. So no matter what you choose to do in music, whether you want to be a teacher or what have you, music theory is invaluable to your musical life. Aside from music just being wonderful as it is, and you being able to sit back, relax, and enjoy music. And so, first things first, what we're going to do is so this being week 1, we're going to take it slow. We're going to talk about the most basic parts of music, and that would be the pitches and how we identify those on the staff. So we have our keyboard, and on our keyboard we have what we call middle C. So here we have our piano. And on the camera, it's probably backwards, but this is the higher end. This is what we call the treble. And down on the other side is where we call the bass. And a lot of times we use those terms when we sing. We say, oh, we're going to sing in treble clef, or we're a bass. So when you talk about pitches, normally you usually talk about it in terms of treble or bass. And on the piano specifically, that just depends what side of middle C that you're on. middle C is a very specific key on the keyboard, and that is a key that splits the keyboard in roughly half. There's 88 keys on a keyboard, so this splits it in about 44 and 44. So when you play going up and away from middle C, the pitches get higher. And when you play on the lower side of middle C, if you're sitting at the piano, it'll be your left hand going down, the pitches get lower. So when we talk about pitch, we talk about the physical frequency of the notes, and that leads us to tuning. So if you've ever sat in your house and you've heard your fridge going or your AC and it's kind of humming and you hear that kind of a noise, that's a frequency. So all of the notes on a piano and all of the notes in music are all based off of frequencies. And most of the time we use A440. And that is the A straight below middle C. So A. And that frequency my mistake. It's the A above middle C. My mistake. It's the A above middle C. Kind of hear it ringing. That frequency is 440. So all of the other notes are tuned to that frequency in relation to that frequency. So as we go, if we talk about frequencies, it's because of all of that. So how do we start to read music? How do we start? So the very first thing that we're going to learn is how we are going to learn the very basics of notation. So this is the very basics of writing music and being able to read music. Two of the very biggest pillars of being a musician, because there are definitely musicians who can't read music and they play by ear. So that means that somebody plays, or they heard a song, or they can hear the music in their ear, or in their head, excuse me. They can hear the music in their head and they can play it without using any kind of music. Some people have to listen to a song and then they can figure it out from there. So when we learn how to write music, this kind of bridges that gap. It gives an explanation as to what is going on versus, oh, I hear that, but I don't know what it means or anything like that. I just know that I can figure out where it is somehow in relation to itself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write. Well, actually, the first thing is on your piece of paper, draw 5 lines. So here we have 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4. And on those lines and spaces, you're going to draw, I'll draw it off of it so you can see. You're going to draw a stick straight down like the letter I. I'm going to draw backwards S. And then you're going to draw, after that backwards S, you're going to kind of just finish it. And then you're going to draw, on that original stick, you're going to draw down and make a little hook. So you've got your stick, your stick with an S, your stick with an S and a hook. And that's what we call our treble clef. And when we do that, that's going to go on the top staff, the top set of lines and spaces. So, and when you do your little squiggle, that goes around your S, that's part of it, goes around the fourth line right there. And then we're going to draw what we call our bass clef. And for right now, we're just going to draw it on the same set. We don't have to draw it anywhere special. So this one is kind of like a fancy walking cane or a really bent candy cane with 2 dots. So we've got our treble clef right here on the end, and then we've got our bass clef there. And you can notice that I did the 2 dots on either side of that top line. I'm sorry, not the top line, the second line down. So there we've got our bass clef and our treble clef, and that tells us in writing what side of middle C we're going to be on. So once we know that, then we need to learn how to draw, how to draw actual notes, because, okay, we know where the note's going to go, but we don't know what note we want specifically. So firstly, we're going to draw another treble clef. And then, most people know notes as circles on a line or in a space. So we'll start with our first note on the very bottom line. I'll show you guys in a second. So we've got a line note, a space note, a line, and a space. And each of these have note names. And these note names go from A to G, and then it repeats. So there's no H. So it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it starts over again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And it goes like that throughout the entire range of any instrument, but specifically on the piano, it's going to be all the way from the bottom left all the way to the top right. And you just keep repeating that, and we'll worry about all the black notes in a little bit. So once we have those, now to draw the different types of notes, we're going to draw a circle with a line, kind of like a golf club, and then a circle with a line like a golf club, but filled in. And then a circle with a line and a little flag that's filled in. So here we have our whole note, our half note, our quarter note, and an eighth note. And once that, now we're starting to get into rhythm, because you need to know how long to play each one of these notes. And this leads us right into time signatures. So you can see how fast all of these concepts start to blend straight into the next one. And so we're going to leave it there for right now, because there's going to be, it's Monday now, so there'll be a small exam on Friday. And by exam, I mean a small, like 5-10 question quiz, just to make sure that you understand the basics of, the basics of writing on a staff, writing basic notes, writing different types of notes, and then we'll work on time signatures and key signatures next, because then once we know that, then we can start writing what everybody knows as scales. The musical scale that everybody knows is C major, even though they might not understand what that is, but everybody knows what that sounds like. And if you've seen Sound of Music, then you're well aware of what do re mi is. So we're going to leave it there for this week. Are there any questions? All right. Thank you. We're going to work on give you guys the homework next, and then we'll see you guys next time.